the small farm, and the Grange, which is a slightly larger farm which lies to the northeast of here by about 8 miles. A couple of years ago, I think the whole Ahimsa operation was focused at Manton, just a little bit down the road, and obviously it had developed over the years, and it had reached a point where we were looking to get a little bit bigger, and we had an opportunity, it fitted in very well with us at the farm. We had an opportunity to, or we were looking to make a change, and we felt we sort of had a lot of the sort of practical knowledge that could take what Ahimsa were doing to its next level. So just as a sort of quick recap on where we've been with the farm, my farming started in the 1960s at Little Bytham, and from the 1960s to the probably around late 1990s, we were what I would call fairly mainstream dairy farm, conventional. We weren't organic, and what we were doing was shaped very much by what most other dairy farms in the area were doing at the time. We were finding that we were getting squeezed tighter and tighter to the point at sort of late 1990s where small farms like ours were just dropping off the perch. So at the same sort of time my father was retiring in the late 1990s and I came in, I realised we were going to have to do something a little bit different. So from 1990s, late 1990s to 2020 was that phase where we took on the organic, we did the organic conversion, and we became a lot closer to what I would say the market. We were a lot more, we got our ears open to what people were expecting from farming, what the food we were producing. So we'd gone from a phase where I felt the farm was shaped by just what everybody else was doing to one where we were taking a more proactive role in listening to what people wanted. And the third phase, I think, which is the really significant one for us, which is where we've sort of partnered up with Ahimsa. It's a phase now of where I think we need to be going in the future. And that's probably been the most difficult one in terms of taking the vision of things like animal welfare, the role of animals on farm, how we value animals, and trying to reconcile that with today's farming and bridging that gap, how we actually make the transition from one to the other. And the benefit is, I think, that we've got, we have got that 40, 50 years of experience to draw upon to know pretty much what is possible and what's not possible. And I think we've made big progress, haven't we, in the last sort of couple of weeks. Sometimes it feels, you get frustrated. There are things that it's difficult to move on, but then all of a sudden you look back at where we were 2 years ago and you think, crikey, we really have made strides. And I put down a few reflections. It sounds like an old philosopher, but just a few reflections from probably more like a cynical old farmer, but where we have come over that journey. There are these big things, we've got climate change, biodiversity loss, soils degradation, these are big things that we are having to tackle. So I feel we are very much in the right place, not, just looking at where we need to be and understanding how we make that journey from where we are to where we need to be. I would by no means say that we're a model farm, but we are prepared to try anything and reevaluate things from first principles. I've got a little granddaughter called Lila, and her big thing, she's 4 years old, and her big thing at the moment is I want this, I want that. And she wanted the other day, she wanted some rainbow ice cream, and you can't have rainbow ice cream. And I know actually if she got rainbow ice cream she'd be very disappointed. It wouldn't be how she imagined rainbow ice cream. And I really think, you listen to what all people want out of farming, and it is like that rainbow ice cream. We want everything, and we have to go away and think, how on earth do we actually deliver this in practice? And sometimes you've got to say, well, actually I think I do know what you want, and it might not look like you think it will be, but we can do the best, knowing what is possible and knowing what those shared objectives are. The second one is, we were talking the other day, it's actually how much our thoughts and perceptions are shaped by where we are at the moment, and sometimes you've got to step back. There's one of the great things from Ahimsa in terms of this model is coming from a dairy background all through the 60s up to the 90s. Every year a cow has a calf, you produce a calf, and it's needed to produce the milk. That, if we fill this up with dairy farms, that is taken as a granted. You would never challenge that, but here we have something where we've got cows milking who've never had a calf. Cows milk for 4 years, and it's until you step away and look beyond the barriers or the boundaries that are false boundaries. They're put in place by what is surrounding us every day. You have to be able to step back from that. So a period of reflection is really important. And similarly with the possibilities, it's very. When we went organic, my dad said, "You'll never get organics to work on this farm. We can't grow clover here." And you have to go back and say, well, actually, let's try it. If we can't grow clover, that's great, but at least let us try and let's give it a really good shot. It's so easy to talk yourself out of possibilities just by not trying. Beware of binary choices, and we hear this all the time. Are we going to feed the world, or do we have the environment? And even on the farm, we've got things like we do oat milk there, and we've got cow milk. These aren't binary choices. They're actually, we see them as sort of all elements that come together, and they're little bits of the jigsaw. And somewhere down the line, we work in a 3D world in farming, and anything to do with the environment, we work in a 3D world, and very rarely it's actually a binary choice. And if you go down one route, actually what you're doing is displacing something else, or you're having a knock-on effect. And it's only by using that experience that you've got a good idea that, well, at least if I do that, there is a chance that actually I'm going to have an adverse effect on something else, which is probably where we've come to with chemical farming and that sort of thing. We've focused too much on production and ignored the downside of it. So we do have to take that balanced approach. And instinct, the importance of instincts, and I think it's something that's kept us alive as humans for millennia. And particularly if that experience, the intuition is grounded in experience. Some people think, I think it's worth trying this, or I don't think that's going to work. The value of listening to your instincts is, I think, really important. Particularly when people are saying something's not possible. If you think it is, then go for it. And the last one, I think it's the most important one. I just keep banging on about it at the moment to the point of being boring, but how important people are, and it's so important to overlook the value of people. We're talking to people wanting to get into farmers, and they're talking about land and machinery and money and all that stuff. And actually, all those things are really relatively simple. They're all things you can do. What is usually missing on farm is people with skills and energy and commitment and that sort of thing, and particularly how you get those people working together. That's where the real sort of magic happens. And I think one of the things that's probably been the success of Sitarama and his team coming together with what we're doing is there are actually a lot of shared values for a start. But something we keep talking about is it's actually so much easier because there is that sort of ethical, if there's a shared ethical vision, and certainly a lot within the Hare Krishna values, resonate with the values that we have, and that is a sort of a cement that bonds everything together. And the real success is on the farm. If you look around all the great things that happen, Elan with the biodigester and the skills and energy. There's Shane and Yamuna now doing the vegetables. There's Raj with his and Malati doing the accommodation and the cheese making. All of those things seem to work really well because we share a sort of a common bond and a, common objectives, and that is so important about making this all work. There's a lot of people say, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And I usually say, give me the people. Well, there's no reason we can't do it. We just need the people to do it. There's a lot of people say, why don't we do it? There's a deficit of people saying, do you know what? I'm going to put my hand up. This is what I'd like to come and do. So that's sort of the reflections on where we are. We're, unfortunately, probably within about 5 years of having to step back a little bit from the farm and hand it on to the next generation. But it really is the most inspiring, promising point in my whole farming. I think there's so much, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by all those big problems, but actually it's such an exciting time, the possibilities and, tremendous potential. For me, this fundamental reset of our relationship with animals on farms, rather than seeing them as something that we can exploit or something that we are extracting from, to see them as an equal partner and to get away from just seeing milk or meat as the primary benefit from them, that there's so much more that can come from the relationship of animals and soils and ourselves. That is, to me, the really important part of what we're now doing in this sort of shared project with Ahimsa. So that's me.